Daily Sideshow. I'm your host, Art Delinsky. Breaking news. A politician kept his word? Yesterday, September 22nd, at the UNGA, President Macron of France actually recognized Palestine. He joined countries like Canada, Australia, the UK, Portugal, Monaco, Luxembourg, and Malta as part of the New York Declaration recognizing Palestine under the UN General Assembly. And as a reminder, it is not a binding agreement, meaning that other countries don't have to recognize Palestine, but what that means for the countries who do is that they can now open up channels of communications, diplomatic relations, embassies, different things like that. So that's happening. I think the biggest news of it all is that Macron actually kept his word. Even he co-authored the New York Declaration, and there was chatter that he might not recognize Palestine unless there's something with the hostages and all that, but he did. He stayed by his word after it was very clear that different countries were pressuring for this to happen, and it happened. So it's kind of a big deal. Not as much of a big deal as if it was through the Security Council. Remember, we talked in last episode, the Security Council resolution was vetoed by the United States. If it wasn't, then that means that every UN member would also have to recognize Palestine, but that is not the case. But as I mentioned in our last episode, there are some stipulations that do come with this declaration, and one of them is regarding Hamas, terror group. So I want to go over this article very, very quickly from the BBC. Palestinian president calls on Hamas to, quote, surrender their weapons. I'll just start in the middle here. Hamas will have no role in governing Gaza, he says, before calling for the group to, quote, surrender their weapons to the Palestinian Authority. What we want is one unified state without weapons, he explains. Within 3 months of the end of the war, Abbas says, an interim constitution will be drafted to ensure the correct transfer of power takes place. Elections will then be held under international observance, he adds, describing his aspirations for a state governed by the rule of law. He then commended the 149 nations which have already recognized the state of Palestine and calls those which have not done so to follow suit. He also expresses his readiness to work with U.S. President Donald Trump, Saudi Arabia, and other partners to implement any peace plans adopted during the UN conference. So, like I said again, I'm not really trusting any politician, but he is saying the thing that in the UN Security Council, everyone, or at least everyone, Israel and America was kind of harping on, which is, what about Hamas? What about the terrorism? What about this? What about... So, like I said before, the humanitarian crisis in the Gaza Strip is definitely front and center for all of these UN members, because how can you think of a future when the present is so filled with death? Everything is demolished. There's death, destruction, and hunger, starvation. You can't think of peace when you're in hell, But also, on the other hand, in my opinion, this whole notion of from the river to the sea, I kill you and you kill me, that's done with. That's deaded. The future is coexistence. The future is Israelis and Palestinians together. And anyone who thinks otherwise, I don't know what to tell you. You're an extremist and your ideas fucking suck. So you're just as bad as the radicals in Hamas, and you're just as bad as the radicals who want annexation to create a greater Israel and third temple. But luckily, the majority of people aren't extremists, and they aren't full of shit, and they aren't politicians, and they aren't people with special interests. They're just people like you and me, and they just want to live and see tomorrow and eat good food and dance and see their kids grow up. So anyone who thinks that one nation doesn't deserve to exist, or that one people don't deserve to exist for the other one to exist, you're fucking crazy. So thank God you're not in government, I hope. Anyways, one quick thing, I'll wrap it up with this. A question that I keep hearing from people is, if this UN General Assembly New York Declaration that's happening with this month, we have 4 different countries, and I mean G7 countries, not just any countries, right? Recognize Palestine. If that doesn't have a legal binding, then what is this for? In my opinion, I think that it is to put pressure on the United States to then put pressure on Israel to end this war, at least to come to the negotiation table in a peaceful way. Why? Well, because at this point it looks like the current administration in Israel is doing everything to quote unquote win this war, even if that means destabilizing their own country and the lives of the people and the population, and squashing dissenting voices and putting them in jail. People are leaving. The Israelis themselves are being isolated in the diaspora, but then also as a nation, as a whole, people don't fuck with Israel right now, and we see it very clearly being presented on the world stage during the UNGA. The only people that are standing up for Israel is the US. They're still hostages. People are still protesting every single day there. You have a whole movement of people who are refusing to be drafted into the military. There's a significant economic downturn. The current minister for the economy in Israel is doing more to promote BDS than any protester or activist ever could. Morale is down. People are broke. Like, we need to rectify and do better somehow. How? I don't know. I'm not in the UN. You know what I mean? If I was in the UN, I wouldn't be fucking doing this podcast. But in my opinion, all this is really to put pressure on the United States to make Israel come to the table. Why? Israel and America are like besties, you know? And we can talk about like things like AIPAC, and I don't mean it like an anti-Zionist way or like an anti-Israel way. It's just AIPAC is really fucking powerful. You got politicians that go to Israel all the time. There's that like religious element. There's also the financial element to it. Let's just call a spade a spade. America is the only country that's still sticking up for Israel. You know, for the good or the bad. We listened to the U.S. Special Envoy talk at the Security Council. She was repeating Zionist talking points like left and right. She's saying Israel has the right Israel has the right to resist itself. Oh my God. Israel has the right to defend itself. What about Hamas and the hostages? We want them now and all this. So obviously, I think that America has shown enough good faith that they're like, bro, I'm your friend and I'm telling you right now, like, you're acting bonkers. Stop it. Let's go for a walk or something, you know? That's just my opinion. I just wanted to make sure that I highlight this on the show. Thank you so much for tuning in. My name is Art Delinsky. I was talking with you about President Macron actually keeping his word. Breaking news, a politician keeps his word. Macron, president of France, actually recognizing Palestine as part of the UN General Assembly New York Declaration. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back soon. Okay, love you. Bye.